Hey, Absol-lites, if you don't keep up with me, or you're just new, I really like Loomian Legacy. And in Loomian Legacy, there's this guy named Jake, who I've had a theory about for quite a while. Let's get started. So let's start with who Jake is. Jake is at least a version of a character who appeared both in Loomian Legacy and the creator's first project, Pokemon Brick Bronze. We're going to start with his Loomian Legacy version, because that's what this theory is mostly about. Jake is, as the wiki puts it, a young trainer who's trying to find his way home. I could just copy in his description from said wiki, but that's long, so I'm going to paraphrase. Jake first shows up in Galvanite Cave, saying he needs the energy from some crystal thing to bring him home. You battle him, and then you don't see him again until you and some of your rivals, Mabel, Lucy, and Lucas, are about to go on a tour of Polycorp. Jake stops you and tells you that he got off on the wrong foot with you, and introduces himself in a scene that can be best described by just playing this footage of my Let's Play of that part. That's right, I never introduced. I knew it! Okay! Yes, your name is Jake! Yes! He mentions at some point that he reminds you of a friend, but that's not explained as of yet. The most recent thing we see him do is in a cutscene after you beat the third battle theater. You see him inside Polycorp, sneaking around, and he sees Dr. Vanta. You can see that in my Let's Play of it, or you can watch my video of the story of this game so far. Please do! I'm really proud of that, but no one saw it, and I don't like that. But the gist of it is that he sees Vanta doing some weird stuff with mysterious rocks, and he wakes up a thing called Protagon. Now, let's hop over to his Brick Bronze iteration. The Brick Bronze wiki actually does have a decent and fairly short description of him right at the top of the wiki, so for this, I am just gonna copy that. Rival Jake is an in-game neighbor and childhood friend of the player. He has lived in Midas Town, diagonally opposite the player's house. Once the player starts his or her journey, Jake becomes a friendly rival, challenging the player to battles occasionally throughout their adventure in Auroria. However, he was beaten and captured by Team Eclipse later on, which ultimately led to his betrayal. Unquote. That is pretty much all you need to know, up until right at the end he became a hero and saved his friend Tess from a flying crate, but in exchange, he sacrificed himself and was knocked into a portal because of that crate thing. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, time for the actual theory. So here's my thesis. Jake, from Brick Bronze, fell into a portal, got transported to the Loomian Legacy world, and that is the version we see in Loomian Legacy. Bold claim, I know, but let's start with the most obvious part. Do alternate universes even exist in the Brick Bronze / Loomian Legacy universe? Well, yes. At least in Brick Bronze, it's confirmed that alternate universes do exist, because near the end of the game... Oh, hey, massive spoiler warning for both Loomian Legacy and Brick Bronze in this video, so if you're still playing Loomian Legacy, or you're catching up with an old Let's Play someone did of Brick Bronze, and you don't want it spoiled, stop here. You have been warned. After you catch the mythical Pokemon Hoopa, a guy comes up and introduces himself as Looker, someone who, if you play the mainline games, you most certainly know. He tells you that he's an agent of the Interdimensional Police, and he tells you that there are loads of universes like your own, and they make up the multiverse. So yes, at least in Brick Bronze, other universes do exist. Now, I couldn't get any good evidence for Loomian Legacy, but the wiki for the game does say that it's set in an alternate universe to Brick Bronze, so I'm just gonna use that for the purposes of this video not being cut short here. Now that we've gotten the "is it even possible?" stuff out of the way, let's move on to the evidence itself. First of all, let's just compare the two side by side. Spiky hair with a lot more on the front? Check. Orange and black shirt? Check. Yeah, it's not exactly the same, but it's close enough. And yeah, okay, sure, that is all I could find, but cut me some slack here. The only good pictures I could find of the guy are either really low quality, or just his head and chest. I can't look at his legs. Anyway, now that we've gotten pretty much the only easy stuff in this whole theory out of the way, let's figure out the other stuff. But first, there's something that's just fun I want to mention, and it also helps to prove this theory. In Zephyrite Junkyard, there's a guy standing next to a crate wearing a Team Eclipse shirt who says, quote, "Hands off, I saw this crate first. I was just standing here and this crate fell out of the sky, nearly hit me. When I opened this thing, it was full of these orange shirts. Just in time, too. My last shirt was in rags." I think that's pretty safe evidence that there's more of a connection than the creators and a character of the same name. Now, let's move on to the main evidence, and the stuff that's a bit harder to sift through, most of which is dialogue. The first time you meet him, in Galvanite Cave, he says, "My name is not important. I'm trying to find a way home. You might say I'm not from around here." And then, the next thing he says is, quote, "The talk in this town is that this crystal, if harvested properly, could power a city for a century. I need that kind of energy. If I ever hope to get back home, I'm going to need this crystal." His next line is on Pollard's campus, where he introduces himself, and then he says, "Just an FYI, I'm gonna paraphrase most of these important parts from here on out, because just quoting will be boring." He has heard that Pollard Corp is way ahead of the rest of the world in tech, and he is hoping that they can help him with a certain predicament. He then goes on a tour of the place with your crew, and on a lunch break at the end of the tour is where he gets most of his interesting dialogue. Mabel and Lucy ask about his story. Jake says that it's complicated and he doesn't want to talk about it. He says that he's, as he put it, sort of stuck and looking for a way out of a tough situation. He later mentions that the player's bravery is inspiring, and he had a friend who was once faced with similar choices, and that the player reminds him a lot of them. He says that he once thought of himself as a failure, and that he was a coward. For the rest of this, I'll go back to quoting directly, but for that line, may I point your attention back to Brick Bronze Jake. He was a coward, and he joined Team Eclipse because of it. He said, "I believed I was weak, and because of it, I became weak. Then, something happened to someone I cared about. I had to make a choice. I could either run away and remain weak, or let go of the past and take control of my future. I made my decision, casting all fear and doubt aside. In the end, I was able to save them. Or at least, I think I did. That part is still a mystery, but I have to have faith that it turned out well in the end." And that is his last bit of interesting dialogue. So now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's piece together the timeline so far. So, in Brick Bronze, Jake is the friendly rival of the player before eventually joining Team Eclipse. He stays on Team Eclipse for a while, but eventually, he saves Tess from a crate that was going to hit her into a portal. However, when he does that, he gets knocked into the portal himself. That portal sends him into the Loomian Legacy dimension, and that's where he is now. Some people think that there's a time skip there, but with the exception of Jake being a little older, we don't really have any evidence of that, so I'm not going to put that in here. Then, in Loomian Legacy, we first see Jake in Galvanite Cave. He's looking for power to bring him home. Then we next see him in Pollard Corp, where he talks, somewhat vaguely, about his past, which is the last thing of note that we see him do. Okay, so we've seen a lot of evidence here, but it's all pretty vague, or in the one place that it's moderately explicit, very out of the way. But here is what I think is going to be the focal point, the most important part of the theory, the missing link that ties this whole thing together, and it has been under my nose the entire time. The Loomian Legacy announcement trailer, Worlds Apart. So, Worlds Apart starts with some not very important stuff, and all you need to know is that Tess from Brick Bronze is there. We go inside Tess's head, and we see her memory of Jake falling into a portal. We saw that in Brick Bronze. But then, what we didn't see. Jake's body starts transforming, and when he falls out of the portal on the other side, he's a Loomian Legacy character model in Midas Town. He wonders where he is, and an Mbit hops up to him, and he seemingly befriends it. So that's pretty much it. To do a quick summary of the timeline I told you about earlier, Jake was your rival, he became Team Eclipse, Worlds Apart happened and he became Loomian Legacy, possible time skip, he battles you in Galvanite Cave, he becomes friends with you in Polycorp. Well, since we've gotten that whole thing done, I think we've gotten everything done. So, thanks so much for watching all the way to the end, Absol-lites, but that's just a theory! A game theory! Thanks for watching. Oh, I have wanted to say that for so long. Oh, wow, this video's been in the works for a while. I've had the idea for this theory since I first saw Jake in Loomian Legacy months ago, and while I know that a lot of people already know that this is pretty much confirmed, I see new people every day on the wiki thinking this just might be the same as Brick Bronze Jake, so there's still a market here. Anyway, thanks for watching, peace out, Absol-lites.